Today we're making a curried beef stew, Caribbean style. Got some really nice Caribbean curry in there, some really good beef, and some low-carb vegetables like daikon and celery root. Okay, it's time for my curried beef stew. And the inspiration for this is Barbados, actually. I spent an enormous amount of time in Barbados, and you'd have a beef curried roti, and this is what inspires this. The recipe for my curried beef stew is below in the comments section. Now, I've got some nice cubes of beef here. Let's put that in. And I've got some Carbalose flour, so I'm just going to coat that. Just move it around. And I've developed this recipe for the pressure cooker because that's how they do it in the islands. That's nicely coated. Instead of regular flour, I go with the Carbalose flour. That's perfect. And I'm going to use my pressure cooker on the induction burner. I'll turn that up. I've got some olive oil here. I'm just going to take this up into a sear. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to brown this on all sides and then set it aside. And you can see the chunks that I have. Some are pretty large. When you go into roti mode, you want some nice large pieces of tender beef. When I feel really fancy or doing this for company, I would go with a beef tenderloin, which is really good. So in this goes. It's absorbed all of the flour. Just move them around. There you go, I like that. Now I'm just going to reserve it into this bowl here. There we go. Pot back on. Got 3 tablespoons of butter. And we're just going to saute up some ginger. Some nice fresh chopped ginger. It's kind of minced. Some onion and some garlic. So in that goes. Ginger is really important in this. And they don't normally put celery into roti, but we start off with having beef stew first of all, curried beef stew, and then we go into the roti in the last stage. So just scraping the bottom here. I've got some beef bone broth, which is really important. So this is homemade beef bone broth, and beef bones are really expensive these days, but save your bones and make some beef bone broth. And with the beef bone broth, I always add in a little bit of better than bouillon beef. For the curry, I always use a Caribbean style curry, and you can buy Caribbean style curry at any ethnic store. I've got 2 tablespoons. This one's from Barbados, and I'm going to put that in because you don't want a raw taste. You want to get that into the liquid. And my vegetables are nicely sauteed. Pour a bit in, scrape the bottom. Want to get all that fond up off the bottom. There you go. Well, that smells fantastic. Those are all the crunchy bits from the beef. And now I'll just put the rest of this in. Starting to look really good here. Now, I've got some daikon, and if you haven't tried daikon, you have to buy some and try it. It's a fantastic substitute for potatoes. Normally it would be potatoes that we put in, but daikon, and that's a half cup, and that's probably just a little under 3 net carbs per half cup. And I've got some celery root. And for my herbs, I've got some fresh basil from the garden, 2 bay leaves. In Barbados we picked them. I have a friend that has a bay leaf tree, and we'd pick them. And you need some scotch bonnet in there. So I've got 1 scotch bonnet that's been seeded because you want a little bit of heat in there. And it's not overly spicy. And now we're going to put our meat back in. Okay. And I'm going to put the lid on. And I'm going to pressure cook this with the steam coming out for exactly 25 minutes. And then I'm going to do a natural release. That just means turn the heat off, and it'll take maybe 10-12 minutes to subside and relieve the pressure. Then you'll be able to take the lid off. So this doesn't take long to get up to speed here. Okay, my curried beef stew went for 25 minutes exactly. I have a little timer on here, and I really like this type of cooking where I can just set my timer, let it steam out, and then just do a natural release. It just automatically turns off, and it took about 10 minutes for the natural release. And that's, if you have a pressure cooker, you would normally just open the valve and the steam would come out. But this way, it automatically releases. It's still quite warm. Okay, for the last part, we're just going to reduce it down a little bit. We want to thicken it up. And to thicken it up, I'm going to use a little bit of xanthan gum. And I have it in a little spice jar with a little shaker on the top. It smells fantastic. You just want to sneak up on this. You don't want too much. And I've got 1 cup of coconut milk. That adds a really nice flavor. Sometimes if I don't have coconut milk, I would use heavy cream, and that's really good too. And I'm just going to put a little sprinkle of salt in there, fresh pink Himalayan salt, and a little bit of fresh cracked pepper. And I'll definitely serve salt and pepper on the table with that. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of the xanthan gum. And you can garnish this any way you want. I always add in a little bit of fresh parsley. And that's going to go for another 5-10 minutes to thicken up. Now we're having it as a curried beef stew tonight, but in a couple of days I'm going to thicken this up and it's going to turn into a really nice beef roti. Rotis are very big in the islands. When people leave Barbados, the whole plane smells of curried beef rotis. Now you can make this at home. Just find some nice low-carb vegetables, and that's about it for my curried beef stew. It's extremely easy to make. As I said, the recipe is below in the comments section, and I'm not cheap with the meat. I've got some really nice pieces of tender beef in there, and we'll have a good feed tonight, and then what's left over I will turn into beef rotis and use a low-carb tortilla. Here's my curried beef stew. Thanks for watching.